Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. All right. So, another week has gone by. Lots more Omniverse stuff happening. We had the live stream with Damien on Wednesday about Kit 105. Lots of great features coming. Looking forward to covering those in the near future. And but today I've got some good questions. Some of them came up last week during the open forum, and I wanted to be able to cover them today if I didn't last week, or be able to cover them better this time around. So, welcome Funky Boy, welcome Lonnieverse. Let me know if you're here, and I'm gonna get started. So, just a quick intro. This is Developer Office Hour for NVIDIA Omniverse. This is where I go through and answer questions that have been asked on the forums and Discord, and just show them here on video, uninterrupted, and just kind of show you how um, just answering those questions. And then we have an open forum for any questions you may want to ask during this time, and I'll try my best to answer them today. And if I can't, then I'll follow up another time. So, Funky Boy's already got his questions coming in. And then this is our repository here with all of the previous answered questions. And if you go into extensions here, there are folders here for every date that I've done before with scripts and all the code available from other times. So let's do this. Hey, Nandu. All right, first question. How do I find and execute a Kit action? Okay, so I think this was new in Kit 104. I haven't talked about it, but now I have a good reason to talk about it. So let's take a look at how we find an action first. So I'm in USD Composer today, just for the beginning, because the next question will need it, or it'll be easier to demonstrate in here. But if you go to Window, we have this Utilities section. There's lots of interesting things in here. Highly recommend checking these out on your own. There's Scene Optimizer, Statistics is always fun to look at to see how you're kind of how much content you have and how that's being processed and everything. But the one that we're going to look at is Actions. This is the Actions window. It's kind of like the Commands window, but it's listed here grouped by extensions, and then you expand an extension and it'll list all of the actions that it has registered. And so there's lots to play with here. And the first question is, how do actions compare to commands, right? Because when I've recommended starting the code, I've said, hey, use Kit commands. They kind of wrap up functionality into logical units of things, the code that you'd want to run. But so what are actions in this case? They kind of sound similar. They've got a similar UI here. So let's look at the documentation really quick for this. If we go to Kit API units and we search for action, we have action core documentation here. And there's a good overview here. For the most part, actions are meant to be one-off. So one of the key differences between actions and commands is commands have the whole plug into the undo stack. So any command you execute should ideally have some code behind it in order to undo that command. Actions are not that way. They're one-off. There's no expectation that it should be undone. That's what is meant by fire and forget manner. Also, like commands, actions are really good for sharing functionality between C++ and Python, because they're accessible from both. So let's take a look at today. I'm just going to show you how to use actions. Another time, maybe we can talk about creating an action and registering it and all that. So there's Python examples here. Discovering, deregistering, executing actions. That's the one that we want. And so I've distilled this down to just the part that we want. If I open up the simplest few lines of code here, import actions core, get the registry, get an action from the registry. You do it using an extension ID and an action ID, and you execute the action. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this into USD Composer, paste that into the script editor, and what I think is kind of cool is we could call undo. Usually you would do Control Z or call it from here, but we could do that programmatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cone here. There's my cone, right? And the extension ID and the action ID. So Omnikit commands. And undo. We just run that and we called undo. Easy as that. All right, and then we could redo. So there's a lot of UI functionality that you may want to trigger programmatically. All these hotkeys and things like that. Actions are also very closely tied to the hotkey manager. Whenever you create a hotkey, you are connecting it to an action. So another tidbit to keep in mind is if you want to do hotkeys, you're going to want to do actions for that. So it's really great for programmatically triggering UI functionality. So one of the questions that came up last week was, how do I trigger full screen mode, F11? And so we'll show that now. So we go back to our action window and search for full screen. Because we know that the UI it's got a hotkey, so it must be using an action, so we can search for it. Last week I was searching the hotkey manager, but I can search for the action here. And so the action, the extension is this one, and the action is that one. So let's update this code here. OmniKit UI editor menu bridge. So let's run it and see what happens. Full screen mode. And also last week I couldn't get out of full screen mode. It was just my keyboard. My keyboard wants me to hold the function key in order to make the F keys work. So got that sorted out now, so I can exit. You could obviously exit programmatically too, but kind of hard for me to do that when I don't have the script editor available in full screen mode. So that's full screen mode. Any questions? So I did these in the script editor, but I do have, these will be in the repository. I have the two scripts here. Any questions about actions or full screen mode? All right. I think there's a lot to explore here. I haven't had a good look at these yet, so I think it'll be fun to see what other functionality is hidden in here that we could leverage. Cool. So now I'm going to switch over to code. Cool. So RTX is loading and we're good. So the question was, how do I move a prim in the forward direction? So this is a good question. So the context was a camera, right? And cameras point in negative Z direction. But if you rotate it around, you can't just say, hey, let's move this 5 in negative Z, right? Because now um, forward is some other axis in the world. So we need to figure out how to calculate the new forward axis or the local forward direction for this camera. So we're gonna do some math. And let's take a look at the code. Okay. I will. So I created that camera. I kind of hard coded this to that, making sure I have a camera there on the stage. I'll talk through this code and then we'll run it and see it do its work. So I'm gonna get the camera, convert it into an X-formable object, just so that I can get this API, the get local transformation function. And that's going to give me the rotation translation scale that it's currently in. A key thing for making this work is knowing which way was forward originally for your prim, right? I know cameras are consistently are by default negative Z is a forward direction. That's a USD thing. But if you had some asset and you wanted to move a character and you wanted to move it forward, you have to know what is forward for your characters. So once you know that, we're basically we're constructing this forward unit vector. So in my case, it's from 0, 0 to -1 in Z, and we're taking those 2 points and moving them out into whatever space the camera is currently in. That's what that local transformation is. And once we have those 2 points in that space, then I'm just subtracting those 2 points to now get that forward vector out in space. Then this is just making it a unit vector, length of 1, and then multiply that. And for the purpose for that is now that'll help me be precise with how far forward I want to move. So once I have the 1 length vector in the right direction with a length of 1, I just multiply by whatever amount I want to move, and that's my how much I'm stepping forward. And then I create a matrix with just how much and just that forward offset, right? That step forward. I'm setting it on the translate. I'm setting it as the translation for that matrix. And then I multiply the camera's current location, local transform, with the offset matrix, and I get a new transform. And then I could either apply that transform entirely onto my prim, or in this case, I'm just gonna pull out the translation vector and update my xform op translate attribute with a new translation. So let's see how that works. I'm not gonna, I don't think I turned on my extension for sending this across, so I'm just gonna copy this into the script editor. Cool, so run, steps forward 100 units, right? Did it do more than 100 units? No, there you go. I had some residual stuff there. So that works great. But now the moment of truth is if I do some crazy orientation, is it going to move forward? And it does. Cool. And this works because we're doing it on the local transform. This is going to work even if I have it in some hierarchy, right? I'm only messing around with the camera, so I can do move the camera over here, and then I have some parent that's going to rotate it all funky and also move around and rotate it all funky and also rotate that all funky. So if I got this right, oh, invalid prim. Oh, well, I gotta update the path. One. And it keeps moving forward. So, very useful for moving prims around, whether they're characters or other objects that you need to move around programmatically. Any questions about that? I'll show the code one more time in case we need to refer to the code. All right. If there is nothing else, I will start looking at the questions that came in. Oh man, Funky Boy. So Funky Boy wants to know how to add a right-click menu to a widget like a slider so you can copy values and keyframe. So that's a lot. But maybe a good place to start is here, right? This could be a slider. It doesn't matter. You just need to know what you're clicking on so that whatever this copy button is doing, it has some context as to what was copied. So you could start with the property window and see if you can pick up the code from there. Property window is very abstracted. It's meant to handle all sorts of cases. So it can be a little hard to follow if you're just trying to pull out some little bit of functionality like that. I don't know if we have another simple example. but we've done context menus before. Hoping it was easy. No, there's like 3 layers to this. Let me check to see if we have. Did I cover this before? Context menus. Injecting. But context menus are easy to build, at least. That's in the Omni UI docs, right? It's what do we call them? Do we call them pop-ups? I think it's just a window, not a menu. I believe it's just a window. Yeah, it's a special kind of window. So yeah, a window with a pop-up flag. And blah, 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 blah. So this is basically a context menu created when you click on this text field. So actually this might be a good example, because this could be a slider or any other sort of widget. I'm left clicking on here, but you can make it right click. And so once you have that, does it hold any context? Yeah, let's take a look at this example. And let me just see what else we have here as far as questions go. Okay. So this is Omni UI example. Extension. $37. Sorry, let me pull this off to the side for a sec. Omni example UI. Sorry, that was the one. Yeah, we'll open up NVIDIA Code. Okay. And we're looking for window doc. And here's the pop-up example. So we have a string model. Where is this being used? Okay, so here we go. So we have the string field. And we have the string model. Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is actually getting created inside of the model. So whenever this may be a little bit more than what you need, but it's kind of interesting is that whenever you begin to edit, whenever you click into the text box, that's where it creates this window. And in the frame, it's just going to throw in, it's going to, for the keyword argument, it's going to put these flags, right? The pop-up, no title bar, and then here it's laying out the, and then here it's putting another string field, so you can type. Yeah, this one's pretty complex too. So what it's doing, yeah, this might crash. Yeah. All right, I'll get that up. It's basically overlaying an extra string field on top of the other one where you can type, because you wouldn't be able to type in the other string field because it's in a different window, and so it's actually overlaying it exactly. And then in this frame, it's setting the tips which I get. Actually, I can. Nope, I'll need to switch over to my other editor. New file. I'll call this. There's going to be more notes than actual solution here because it's really going to need to be adapted to whatever your situation is. But import OmniUI as UI. And so what I wanted to show here is window pop-up. So here, it almost looks like you're typing into the same text box that you clicked on, but it's actually a trick that creates a brand new checkbox on top. This is which is part of this window. So this window has 4 elements: a new text box and the 3 buttons, and you're actually typing into that new text box. So kind of cool. And now hopefully this loaded up. What I wanted to check is float drag. Oh. Float slider. I'm not sure why it's not finding. I'm not in the right file. There we go. So potentially, yeah, this class isn't going to have it, but it's going to be in the base class. So probably it's either going to be abstract slider or widget. Abstract slider has nothing, so it's going to be widget. What you could do is create a callback for mouse pressed function, right? On your slider. In that callback, you need to check which button was clicked. Was it middle, left, middle, or right? If it's the right, then you create the window like we saw. Like we saw in here, right? So pretend this is your callback function for that the slider was right clicked. And then now you have context. At this point, you're going to create a window and you have context of your slider. So you could pass into your window a copy of a reference to the slider object or the slider model, or maybe just its value directly. So that when somebody clicks the copy menu item, they would get that in their clipboard, get the value from the slider. Does that make sense? No. Well, good question. So post-processing tab. So yeah, we should have started with that. So Funky Boy saying that the reason that he wants to do this is because he wants to be able to keyframe values from the post-processing tab. So first we need to evaluate if that's even possible. So let's get code back up. Post-processing. So yeah, we can't, right? The question is, are these stored? Are these stored in USD? Do you know that offhand, Funky Boy? Have you looked at that yet? Because I'm guessing they're not. What can I do here? That was a bad idea. All right, anyways, so we have auto exposures turned on. I'll save this. Well, I don't need to save it. I can just come into here. I will also show the session layer just in case. Okay, so here's our cone. Here's our environment. It didn't store anything here. It is definitely going to be experimental. I could find out from the team if they think it's possible offhand. But let's see here. So we have our render product, render vars, but I don't think those post-processing settings are in here at all. So if they were, then at the very least, I would try to and before you even write any code, you could just write in some time samples in here and see if it does what you want. but it looks to me like this is outside of, like, we're not writing it in USD at all. And that would make sense because I think these settings, if you were to save your stage and then open it another day, I don't think these are saved. I may be wrong. And Funky Boy, you probably have more experience with these. Yeah. So, and these are saved separately. Let's test. Oh, that's the USDA. That's cool. But okay, so let's hack this. Test PP. Open with code. What are these? It doesn't look like it saved any of the post-processing stuff, right? Oh, there it is, post. So what can we do here? I need to remember how to do time samples. What I'll do, USD time sample tutorial. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Is that right? No, hold on. Why are there quotes here? Oh, because it's not even attributes. Oh, there you go. So this is custom layer data, and they're not prims and attributes, and these cannot be time sampled if I remember correctly. So there you go. This is metadata. This is not these are not attributes. All right. It was close. It was a good try. Okay, let's check. Kartik. Yeah, I it sounds from the error, it sounds like there's a scene that you need to open, or some this data isn't in the on the stage when you're trying to run some code or something. So your best bet is it is more Isaac Sim related. I don't know this is a specific case. So what you could do is on Tuesdays we have our Isaac Sim live stream, and you could try asking there. I don't have much more. If you have some documentation for what you're working on, or what you're following here, I could try to dig into it. Sergey brought up a good point that IsaacSim has an extension where you can copy values from a scrollable field, so that might be another place to look. But it sounds like Funky Boy may not want to go down that path anymore. Sergey is asking about adding an asset to a stage. There's add reference to stage versus world scene add. Again, I think this is Isaac specific API. I can talk generally, so it's not. I don't know what it's doing under the hood USD wise. I can talk a little bit about it. So, so add reference would be the most similar to, or would very likely be this. This one, yeah, we can do this. Well, this one, right? It is adding another USD layer, and picking up a target from that USD layer, target prim, and loading it and all of its descendants under a given namespace that I give it. So in this case, it's just going to put it at the right under world, but I can group this a few times. And so there's this kind of editing of the namespace based compared to your original file, your original USD layer that you're referencing. So that's what referencing does. As far as actually the other one would be, see how this structure is world environment. Nah, it's not gonna be a good example, but I'll bring it in anyways because it's fun to look at. But yeah, here you can see that there's just a whole structure, and this file has other. These are payloads which are similar to references that are all getting pulled in through here. The other one, world scene add, I'm not sure. It could be doing an import, in which case it would be almost copying it in directly, so it wouldn't be referencing another file at all. Again, this would probably be a better question for the IsaacSim live stream. Then final answer for Funky Boy, it can't be keyframed. I'm like 99% sure metadata is not keyframeable, but you have me doubting, or is not time sampleable. Metadata, USD glossary. Yeah, and I'm 100% sure it's metadata can be composed, but it doesn't have any sort of time. Yeah, cannot be time varying. There you go. All right. So yeah, so that's one thing to keep in mind. A lot of people when they start with USD, they're like, oh, I'll just stuff my custom data into this dictionary called custom data. But that's one thing to consider is one, a lot of times this is kind of hidden away from the UI for some applications. But the other is you may need to do time varying, and that data may need to be time varying. And if you're putting it in there, you've shot yourself in the foot. Anything else? Yeah, sorry, I don't have any good question or good answers for the Isaacson ones. If uh, if you're still struggling, just reach out on Discord, um, and we can try to look into it. But yeah, I think you'll probably get your quickest answer if you try the Isaacson live stream. Sweet. If you want me to take a look at your extension, Funky Boy, let me know. I'd be happy to help test it or anything like that. I really liked the post-processing question was a good one. We all learned something today. All right, and then I guess since I've mentioned the Isaacson live stream so many times, if you're on Discord, we've got the events on listed on Discord. So Discord's always cool. There's a link, and then here is the link to we have this add event calendar where you could just add this directly to your calendar, and you'll have this popping into your calendar as far as what events we have coming up. So there's the Isaacson live stream on the 18th. All right, there was another question here. Deep learning, intro to deep learning on DLI. I don't have. I'm not a good person to ask about that. But we have a full catalog here, I think. On-demand labs. Yeah, I don't know which one would be the best intro. But they're all there. They're all free. I would just dive in and try it out. Introduction to learning deep learning. I like this one. Here, I will share this one. That sounds like exactly what I would want. Cool. Anything else? Yeah, I don't think Blast is going to be something that you can set time samples on. Let me take a look here. Install it. Yeah, keep in mind that a lot of, even though the fields look the same as the property window, a lot of fields are just interactive while the app is running. There's no data behind it, and even if you did add time samples to something, that doesn't necessarily mean that the developers are going to use it. They'd have to be very explicit in their code to say, if there's time samples, let's use the time samples. Well, unless they're stepping frame by frame. So the render case might have been a good one because the render kind of goes just renders whatever the current frame is. So the timeline is controlling that. But I got to do work here. I got to restart. Okay, I'll do it for you, data juggler. So yeah, I wouldn't bet on just setting time sample on things and having it work. Gotta move this off screen for a moment. Turn it on. I don't think I grabbed the destruction schema. Okay, we set that to auto load. Yeah, I forgot to install the destruction schema. Auto load. Here we go. Well, that's promising. I feel like at some point we didn't have a destruction schema. What that means is that there's a formalized way to write out the blast attributes. All right, loading. Hopefully I got it right this time. So there it is, settings. Yeah, there we go. That's the one I wanted. So create a cube, we blast it. Data juggler, what specifically? You want to keyframe the basically the exploded view. This one, explode view radius. Fracture. I think that's all I need to do, right? Yep. Is this what you want to keyframe? Because if that's your goal, I would use the community extension. Actually, this would probably work perfectly with the community extension. Let's try it. What? Yeah, this is the one. Can you keyframe this one though? That would be the next question. Okay, admittedly, I've never used this one, so let's see what we get. Turn it on. Does it have a window? What do the notes say? There it is. All right, so come over here. Start by selecting what I want to explode. No? Ooh. So those chunks are there. I guess I haven't finalized this. Yeah, this is runtime data. So we push it to USD data. You don't think so? I have faith. I think each chunk is a mesh. It's just I didn't. Oh, is that not the case anymore? It used to be. Now they're. Huh. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used this one, so I guess we don't do that anymore. It's probably going to be. Now I want to look at this. So there was something there. Why isn't that in my stage window? They're doing something tricky here. I hope you guys don't mind me just basically exploring Omniverse the way that I would if you weren't watching me. So the base has relationships to the chunks, the children chunks, child chunks. Here are the children. This is a scope. And here are the meshes for each of those children, right? So these aren't showing up because they're set to active false, which is interesting. Because I wonder when we actually turn these into active true, if ever. So that's the answer to why these aren't showing up in the stage view. They're inactive. And Funky Boy's calling me out because he showed me how to use the model exploder, and there's just so much to Omniverse, I forget. Cool. So that was, I think that's as far as I can go with that right now. As far as finding out how Blast works. But yeah, here's the custom destructible chunk API. That's why we needed the destruction schema. Is that now there's this API schema that writes out all this data, or that is used to represent all this data. Cool. All right, I'm going to call it here. Thank you, everybody, for coming. As always, feel free to ask any questions on Discord or on the forums. And if you have anything that you'd like me to try to cover for next week, just reach out to me on there, and you can try to set it up for next Friday. All right. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.